welcome to NTWC Plus. Glad to have you along for another great show today. I think you're going to find this one fascinating as we rebuild together Greater Florida. Jose Garcia is going to join us in a minute. We'll get to that in just a second. Before we do that, let's introduce a couple of other folks. Let me go first to Bill Reed. Bill Reed, former director of the National Hurricane Center, joining us from somewhere other than humid Southeast Texas. Good morning, Bill.
I'm sitting up here 28 miles north of Santa Fe at 6,500 feet altitude instead of my 18-foot altitude house in Texas. Dew points are got all the way up into the 30s early this morning. On the way down to the teens this afternoon, and we're desperately in need of water up here. We've had no snowpack. We irrigate off a dam, and it's already too low on the dam, and the irrigation of crops and whatever is cut in half already, and will probably be stopped altogether in a few weeks if the summer monsoon season doesn't kick in.
Wow. Well, I love your real background. It's not virtual. It's not some ocean somewhere. That's what's really behind you. Even in Florida, it looks good.
It's I'll break down and get a satellite, a Starlink thing, and go up above the reservoir one time. That'll blow your mind. It's one of the most beautiful places on the planet.
I love it. Someday we're going to come visit you there. We appreciate it. Thanks for being
always welcome.
Appreciate that. Also joining us, our guest host today, joining us from, I think, Charleston, right? Emily Gracie, good morning.
Yeah, dew points are a little bit different here. We wouldn't even know what to do with the teens. I'd need some chapstick, that's for sure. Thanks for having me, Tim. I'm in Charleston, South Carolina, podcaster myself. I have a podcast called Atmosphere, but I'm thrilled to be here to help you guys out with this podcast today.
Well, we're glad to have you along. Hurricane Hal is somewhere in the world. We don't know where. We never know where. He's the real Indiana Jones, Hurricane Hal, Dr. Hal Needham. So he's traveling someplace. So we're glad to have you here. So Emily, take it away. Go ahead and introduce our guest, and let's get started with today's program.
Yeah, something that's so important when we're talking about tropical weather is what's to come afterwards. And that's where rebuilding together Greater Florida comes into play. And we're so honored to have the executive director, Jose Garcia, joining us today to talk about the mission of this organization. Jose, welcome. Thanks for coming on today.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the invite. I don't know much about dew points, but I can tell you, that we are in desperate need of water as well, having been raining for a long time, and there are some measurements now taking in Florida because of the lack of rain to some degree. So I can concur that this weather is very weird for all of us, and it's very, very hot.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, give us a little background on Rebuilding Together and what this organization does.
Sure. Thank you. So Rebuilding Together Greater Florida repair homes for low-income homeowners. That's how we were created. We are part of a affiliate network of about 120 affiliates nationwide. We in Florida cover great amount of the state, but we also have sister affiliates in the North Central Florida, in Miami and Broward County, South Carolina, Texas, everywhere where there is a need of the preservation of housing, making sure that people are staying in a safe and healthy place. And when it comes situations like storms, like hurricanes, and any other disaster, we are there before, during, and after.
I'm sure the impacts change like year after year, but Florida has dealt with, several systems in recent years. There's been Helene, there's been Milton. What have you seen as like the biggest impact when it comes to those recent storms and how people were prepared or rather unprepared for them?
Well, before Ian, which was one of the most recent hurricanes in the Fort Myers Southwest area, Irma was the last storm that really made some significant impact in the minds and in the properties of people. And by then, it was like 5 or 6 years. So people kind of forget the true impact of a hurricane and be prepared. So not many people were prepared for Ian. Also storms, as you know, they suddenly changed their path. So Ian was supposed to hit Tampa, but ended hitting the Charlotte and Lee County area. We were very much alert. We are still working on many, many houses that were impacted by Ian, and suddenly came Milton and Helene within 2 weeks span that damaged so much in the St. Pete area, the Pasco area. And then you have other tropical storms like Nicole that damaged the Daytona area. So everybody had a little bit of the medicine that it takes when storms come. We always said that not necessarily a hurricane needs to come or go through your way. A tropical storm will be enough if your house and your property is not prepared or is being damaged for a long time and within easy access of for water to come through your house.
So when it comes to, you're often dealing with rebuilding, but what are you looking at when you look at a house as like weak spots before the storm even comes? What do you see as potential problems?
Well, again, the problems are because families are low income, so they don't have the ability to repair the homes or maintain it to proper standards. So for sure, you have issues like roof needs. Does these roofs needs to be replaced? It needs to be fortified, and then making sure that we look around the envelope of the house. Is water intrusion possible through the doors and windows? And but again, that is if you have a hurricane. But when you have a hurricane like Helene, where water just came through the doors, it was total flooding. Now we're no longer talking about get your roof replaced and be protected. Now you need to basically protect the entire envelope of the house and figure out how to stop the water if it comes through it. So the year round, we're constantly replacing doors, windows, roofs, and making sure these houses are resilient enough to a potential storm. But there are so many houses in need of repairs, especially the old housing stock, the houses that were built, they're good frame homes, not necessarily block homes. So there is so much to do. And they are deteriorating already as it is. Coming in is very difficult to repair those. So once a storm comes through, the damage can be so devastated. The many times we have to demolish the house and work with the local municipalities to replace those homes.
Are there things that people can do now, no matter what their income, like some low-hanging fruit checklist type items that can be done now before there's any sort of storm?
Yeah, I mean, when hurricane season starts, you're constantly hearing from the news and from many groups like ours. Let's get prepared. Let's make sure you have your valuables ready. Let's make sure you are able to leave town if it's needed. Let's make sure that you take all that you need in case that you need to go to another state and things like that. If you choose to stay at home, make sure you have food and water and flashlights and all those kind of things that will allow you to survive 2 or 3 days while rescue comes if it's needed. That's one part of it that we are constantly reminding people, and we have special events and expos and community events where we always distributing this kind of information and supplies. But at the same time is how can you protect the house? How can you be ready with the house? Because you can leave, but when you come back, if the house gonna be there, is the damage already be done that you can come back to your house? So from November to June, we are in the resiliency mode. And from July to November and November, we are in the recovery mode. So we are constantly working to make sure these homes are prepared for a storm. But when a storm may come our way, we need to get boots on the ground and make sure we are ready to do the minimum to secure the house, just in case, we still can protect it.
Do people ask for your help, or do you just show up? How does that process work? Do you just drive around looking for damaged homes?
Well, yeah, in our case, we have established a very trusty relationship with the communities that we work. They know we exist. They know where to go, where to call, how to communicate with Rebuilding Together. But at the same time, they are not thinking about calling somebody. They are just thinking, can I get back to my house? How can I make sure it doesn't get worse than it is? So our team follows the path of the storm, make sure that we are very knowledgeable at the areas that were impacted. We wait until rescue ends, obviously. And once we are able to go to those neighborhoods, we start to show up with many other community organizations. We are not the only ones doing this. So we talk to each other. We may have a house that is in need of repair, but also the homeowners are in need of moving somewhere, or they don't have any food, or they don't have any water. So we work with other organizations that partner with Rebuilding Together to ensure that we get as much holistic approach to the needs of those impacted. But it's really difficult. Sometimes we walk into houses that they are the help, need help. So, because it's pretty bad what we see from time to time, how these houses are completely flushed out with water, and there is nothing you can do about it.
It's a bummer Hurricane Hal isn't here this week, because he does so much work going into areas that have been impacted by storm surge and looking at homes. So it would have been a good week for him to be here.
Absolutely. Sometimes, again, we just opening an office in Jacksonville, which is the northeast, the last city up there that you have in Florida before getting into Georgia. And I think the last hurricane experience was about 10 years ago. So they are not talking about hurricanes. They're not talking about storms. They're not talking about the impact. They're not talking about preparedness. And here we are talking about those things. And people look like you're crazy. What are you going to talk about this, But the reality is that these storms can come in, and you just never know what path at the end they're going to take. And you need to be preparing. Not only Florida. I mean, you have Louisiana and Texas that are also, and look at what happens in North, South Carolina, and Georgia when Helene. So there is so much that we need to do. And the more homes they are impacted, the more money you need to raise to make it happen, and the more reasons you need to stretch these funds so you can help everyone. So at the end of the day, you just can mock and gut a house and replace a roof, make sure it's livable standards, and move to the next house. Because if not, you don't have enough resources to help everyone.
How many people do you have working in your organization to carry out this daunting task?
Okay, so we are 33 in our organization right now, 35. But obviously, again, when these things happen is when you call your sister affiliates. So we got Miami, Broward, and North Central Florida to jump in it. And we all gather our volunteers, and we all make sure that we coordinate and organize in a way that we are as effective as possible.
Okay.
Let's take our mid-show break. It's coming up on the midway through the program, and thank our sponsors who make the program a reality week in and week out. USAA, South Padre Island Convention and Visitors Bureau. Boy, we hope you all will come with us next April, South Padre Island, for the 2027 National Tropical Weather Conference, where you get to meet all these great folks live and in person. Live View and the Texas Weather Network, all the folks who make these programs a reality week in and week out. Jose, I checked. The dew point in Tampa right now is 75, so you might win the prize.
Yeah.
You're right near the top, I think. I think we're running about that here right now as well. Let me ask you a question, then I'll get Bill back into it. Where we live here in Deep South Texas, there's a lot of substandard housing and substandard maybe an understatement. Colonia, some of them are right on the coast, many within 20 miles of the coast. How do you deal with I mean, and again, substandard is an understatement. These are homes that can barely stand as they are. You go in there and see that. How do you get those folks ready for the upcoming hurricane season?
You know, there are many times that we go into houses and we see that there is a need of repair, but really, even if you trying to repair basic items in the house, which is again the roof, the windows, the doors, the plumbing and electrical upgrades and troubleshooting. Sometimes you walk into these houses where you say, there is nothing we can do. We cannot invest any money into these houses because we know that the need is so great that there is no way we can make any impact and difference. In fact, we believe that it's better not to touch it, because if we open a hole, I bet that we are going to have to open holes in every wall on the house. So, you know, we sometimes have to be realistic and say, no, this is not a place for us to help. It doesn't mean there is no place for you to live, because that's all you have. You are not going to go anywhere. You can afford going anywhere, but definitely we cannot touch it and do anything. Those are the first ones we think about it when a hurricane is coming that way. We know that they are going to need help. How much can we help? We don't know. We probably wait until the storm passes, and hopefully they will be in the same situation that they were before and not losing anything in their house. But again, it's very hard not to be able to help a house that is really, really in such deterioration process. But it's a reality. We have to be very careful how to spend the money. And again, we become responsible of anything that we do in the house. So anything that we do wrong or apparently looks like it's wrong, we are responsible for. So we have to be very careful.
Makes perfect sense. Now, when you said there's 33 of you in your organization where you are, do you have volunteers that come in that work with you during an
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Once a storm comes through and we know what are the areas that they were more impacted, we have volunteers that come and help us to mud and gut the houses if it's needed, take any kind of trash out, making sure it's ready for pickup. We make sure that the house becomes as drier as possible, and we tarp the roofs. So we collect that data, and then we will come back a month or two later to replace the roof, to build back the drywalling, to make sure that there are functioning bathroom and there is a functioning kitchen. Not necessarily it's going to be a total remodel or total repair of the house, but again, it will be livable, because imagine low-income families that cannot live in their houses and they may still paying a mortgage, and then now they have to keep paying a mortgage because there will be few months that they won't need it, but sooner or later they need to start. But at the same time, they need to pay rent somewhere else in order to live and be a safe place. So we want to make sure families can come back to the houses as soon as possible, so they are not impacted financially in the same way.
So all of this cost you money. How do you get your funding? Where does it come from?
Well, we're very lucky. We have developed a very strong infrastructure of corporations and foundations. USAA is one of those, where we do a lot of repairs for veterans impacted by the storms and disaster. We also leverage this funding with local government money, municipalities, as well as federal money if that becomes available. Volunteers, skilled volunteers play a huge role, because you can save a lot when it comes to, again, mucking out the houses and then bring back the drywall in the houses. That, along with our national network, which is also out there constantly helping us to identify funding. So something may happen in Texas or in Louisiana, and we are in Florida, we can talk to our funders and say our sister affiliate and any of these states needs help, would you direct some of the funding that way? So that's the way how we network and how we make sure that it happens. Just to let you know, during Ian, in less than a year, we spent $12 million in repairs. Over the last 3 years, we probably spent over $25 million already just on the Ian area. When it comes to Helene and Milton, we probably surpassed the $8 million already in repairs. So you create that infrastructure of funding, but also of trust and the ability to quickly move in order to keep that trust with the funders who know that who are aware of we know what we're doing, and we are able to help families as soon as possible they are impacted.
Wow. Well, Bill, jump back in. I know I kind of hijacked your questioning. Jump back in, Bill.
Those are great questions, and I answered a couple of the ones I was going to ask. But another one I had is I'm really into the resiliency piece of the puzzle. Do you have a working relationship with various broadcast meteorologists in the areas you're responsible for?
Well, we have relationship with the local media groups, not necessarily with all the those that broadcast the weather, but obviously we follow all of them through the TV and the radio, and make sure that we are aware of what's happening or not. But when it comes to storms, remember, we also are residents. So we need to prepare ourselves. We need to make sure we are safe ourselves, that our family is safe. And then when everything looks like it's okay, then we move out and help the families that are in need. Relationship with the media is very important because we are constantly updating what path is this storm going to take. But when Helene came through, when Milton came through, I was in my house with my family protecting them, before we even thought about going out. When Ian happened, we were ready to embrace the storm, and then it ended in Fort Myers, but it was the same thing. And sometimes after the storm, the first call that we all make is to each other, just to make sure we are all okay, and making sure all the closest partners and volunteers are able to help. And if they need help first, we help them so their mind is at ease. So in that way, they can help other people.
Sounds great. Actually, I was thinking more in terms of the before season, where you're not focused on your own safety and survival instincts there, but a lot of the TV stations do before the season special on hurricane preparedness.
Yeah, and we have done some of the we have done some of those programs, and we have gone and explained what we do, and reminding people that if they need help, and that help is available through us, to contact us. Yes, again, special events, expos, working with the municipalities on their own community events, all those kind of things are constantly happening. You will be surprised how many people really show up. It's interesting how sometimes people don't, and maybe we don't want to accept it, that it can be a possibility, but it's surprising how sometimes they are very empty events where people not necessarily come to learn more about it. Maybe they are overwhelmed already with a lot of information. Maybe their last experience have educated them enough, which is great. That's where we hoping that is happening. But at the same time, we want to make sure everybody understands that besides their safety, how can we make sure we protect their homes so they can come back to it?
Right. Emily, got anything more for Jose before Tim pulls the cord on us?
Well, it doesn't surprise me that you have trouble with engagement before the event, because nobody ever wants to prepare. But I feel like people do want to help after, because it feels like a very uncontrolled thing. They can't control what happened, and maybe your house wasn't impacted, but you want to do something to help someone else. So I can imagine there's volunteerism after the storm. So I'm just curious, if somebody does want to volunteer, how do they get involved?
Well, they can go to our website, www.rtgfl.org, click on volunteer, sign up, be prepared, and we will communicate. We usually communicate with all volunteers prior to the storm coming through. First reminding them that if they need any help, to please let us know immediately. Reminding them that we're hoping they will be safe and to follow the local media just to make sure they can leave town if it's needed, all those kind of things. So we establish a trusting relationship with our volunteers, because sometimes they are new volunteers. They don't know necessarily know a lot about Rebuilding Together and the people that works in Rebuilding Together. They know what we do and they identify with it and they want to help, but we want to make sure that they know there is a Jose there, that there is a Justin there, that there is a Margaret there, that there is a Tyler there. There is so many people with names that they're ready to work with in case if needed. And once that happens, we usually work with the local municipalities and with the local emergency management groups to make sure we can gather them in a specific spot, not necessarily in our headquarters or any of our offices, but in a specific spot where the emergency management help to coordinate our volunteers to do what Rebuilding Together do. In this case will be, okay, if you're going to mock and gut this house, this is the blocks and the areas that you need to go with Rebuilding Together.
Rebuilding Together Greater Florida. Jose Garcia, thank you so much. I feel like you're one of the groups, as we wrap this up, we talk about how after a storm, all these people rush in and help, and then they leave. And there's nobody left. But it sounds like you guys are the ones that are left, and thank you for that.
Yeah, and there are many groups that they stay and continue helping, and we want to thank you. Groups like yours that are constantly letting us know that there is help out there. There is not a lot of help, but there is enough help for them to stay at their home, which is the more important palace in their lives.
Very good. Thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. Great
Thank
program.
you.
I learned a lot today. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Of course. Emily, thank you for being a guest host today. Hope you learned a lot too.
I always do from you guys. Thank you for the honor of being here.
We appreciate it, Emily. And Bill, go back and enjoy the dry air out there in New Mexico.
Yeah, we're probably off to see a couple of the old Anasazi Pueblo style sites today.
So you're being a tourist while you're there. That's good. That's good. So thank you, everybody. Thanks, Alex, back in the control room for making this all a possibility. Thank our sponsors, USAA, the South Padre Island Convention and Visitors Bureau, Live View, and the Texas Weather Network, all part of these programs week in and week out. That's it for today. Thanks for being with us. We hope you'll join us again next week for NTWC Plus. Take care. See you.
Thank you.